Welcome to Sharpen Your Chess Tactics. I'm going to be showing you position, and the way I recommend you solve it is to grab a piece of paper or a notebook and write down the variations you think of, and then compare it to the video. Okay, let's take a look at this week's position. Pause the video, I'll give you a couple seconds, and start it up when you think you're ready. Okay, I hope you found the solution, and let's take a look at it. I found this was an interesting problem, and the main feature I think that we can see is this king that is doesn't have too many squares to go to and is kind of crowded in by his own pieces and pawns. So how to get at it, I think, is the uh, primary issue with this problem. Okay, and so there are a couple candidate moves we have to look at. Okay, so uh, first, we should look at all of the checks that the queen might be able to give. Okay, so it's mainly queen to h1 check and queen to h5 check. And then we can look for some other captures. Rook takes e3. But the main idea here is that uh, somehow we're going to either win material or checkmate this king. That really um, is what we're looking for, at least according to the elements of this position. Okay, so let's take a look at these situations or these choices. And first one would be queen to h5 check. And actually, white has a fairly simple solution to this that hopefully you saw, and that is king to g2. And basically, after this, there are no safe queen checks by the queen, and of course, the c2 square is covered by the white queen. So queen to h5 check is no good. The other move is queen to h1 check. Okay, and actually, this one I was really attracted to when I first saw this, and I saw a lot of good variations for black. Okay, and the first one, of course, would be king to g4, but queen to h5 mate. Actually, this is a very thematic um, thematic checkmate pattern that you should know by heart, and that's the case where his own pawns are blocking him in here, and he's basically it's a nice little pattern there. Okay, the other choice after queen to h1 check that you would want to look at, actually there's several, would be queen to f2 and or king to f2 and king to e2. So let's take. So after queen to h1 check, the other option would be king to f2. And here you might have seen, actually, you might have seen a couple things. You might have seen um, rook to c2. And at first you think, well, the um, the queen is covering the square. However, after queen takes c2, hopefully you saw that queen to h2 skewers the king and queen here. And after king to f3, queen takes c2 wins. Okay, so after rook to c2 check, um, white would have to block, and then queen takes e4 wins the queen, and black would be winning. So king to e2 or king to f2 does not look good. However, we also need to calculate king to e2. And in this case, there just aren't any good follow-ups. So, of course, we can queen takes e4, rook takes e4 is no good. Remember, white is ahead a pawn or up a pawn in the initial position. So we have to look at rook to c2 again. And this time, of course, if queen takes c2, we can't do the skewer because king to d3 protects the queen. Okay, and in this position, after king to e2, something like queen to h2 check, then simply king to f1, because we can't check again on h1, and something like rook to c1 check would just be blocked by the white rook. Okay, so after queen to h1 check, the correct move for white, and hopefully you saw this, was king to e2. And so there are no, after that, there are no options there. So actually, queen to h1 check doesn't quite work out. So there's actually, the ideas, though, behind these alternatives is what is key. This idea that this white king is restricted here along the second rank, and also here you can't go to g4. So if there's a way that we can deliver a check here, we can basically get checkmate. And there is a move, and it is rook to c2. So I hope you saw that. And you can see here now there's no way to really block it. Okay, so for example, if rook to e2, trying to block it there because the king and the queen are defending the rook, then now our idea from before, queen to h1 check, works. Okay, because again, if king to g4, queen to h5 mate, if something like king to e3, then rook takes, e2 check, king takes e2, and then queen takes e4 check would be winning, of course. And then, of course, something like king to f2, and we have our good old pin here with queen to e4 that we saw earlier. And black wins as well. So let's go back. Okay, let's recap the solution. Again, all of these ideas with this king, with this checkmate here, if the king goes to g4, with the fact that he can't really move onto the second rank because the queen is covering it, and all of these ideas with these skewers and the pins all come together with the solution. We saw that queen to h1 check almost works, except for the difficult to find maybe king to e2, and the answer is rook to c2. Okay, and again, because the king can't move anywhere, if he goes to g4, he gets mated. If he tries to block, then we saw that queen to h1 check is the solution. Okay, for example here, and we have a very nice pin. And if here, then we distract the king here. Okay, and actually the best move for white would be to just take this rook off, but you can see here that it's clearly winning for black. So I hope you found that, and if you did, great job. And just to close off, this actually was from a game, Alex Wojciechowicz versus Buenaventura Villamayor in the Japa Open in Bali in 2000. So what happened in that game, actually, after black played rook to c2, white resigned because he saw all of the tactics that we just talked about, and hopefully you did as well. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, please hit the like button. And also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you can find out about future videos. And leave a comment. Let me know what else you'd like to see on the channel, as well as perhaps some specific games you'd like me to cover. And maybe you'll see future videos based on that input. Otherwise, thanks for watching and have a great day.